You know, it's crazy. I be recording all these videos and none of them have gone up on the channel. It's because I don't have enough time. I'm gonna just start stacking them up. Fuck it. But YouTube, Patrick CC. Disney is perfectly happy with their catastrophic. My fault. Said it wrong. Downfall. Oh shit, wrong browser. All right, let's get it.
Disney is no longer the magical, wonder-filled universe that it was when we were growing up. Not only have they been making uninspiring, lackluster new films, but they have been going back and changing old stories, altering the narratives of iconic creations. To make things even worse, they buy out competitive film studios who are actually making cinematic masterpieces and drag them into the mud. But the people have had enough with Disney's boring and bleak vision for the future. They are losing hundreds of millions of dollars, bombing at the box office with record low sales, stock prices dropping to the lowest in decades, and while you think this may be an indication they need to change, it is only going to get worse. The real reason Disney is refusing to pay attention to their imminent doom is much deeper and darker than you could ever imagine. You are not just blinded by nostalgia. Disney was actually at its peak from 1989 to 1999. This was known as the Disney Renaissance, where some of their best movies were created. The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, Pocahontas, Hercules, Mulan, Tarzan. These 8 classics all received an overwhelmingly positive critical reception, but more importantly, the fans loved it. Each film generated hundreds of millions of dollars in the box office. The Lion King earned the most at nearly $1 billion, making it the 57th most successful film of all time. These films were so successful that even their soundtracks were selling millions of copies. The Little Mermaid 6 times platinum, Beauty and the Beast 3 times platinum, Aladdin 3 times platinum, Pocahontas 3 times platinum.
Man,
the Lion King reached diamond status. Now I did skip over possibly the most iconic animated film of the 90s, Toy Story. And that's because Disney did not actually create this film. In the 80s, Pixar was just an animation group making commercials as a step towards their ultimate goal of making an animated feature film. The studio made shorts to test their RenderMan software and produce animation challenges for the team. Tin Toy successfully garnered attention from Disney, who wanted to expand the idea, making a film from the perspective of a toy. They developed a relationship where Disney agreed to distribute 3 films for Pixar, as well as provide connections and budget to land superstars Tom Hanks and Tim Allen as lead roles. But Pixar had never written a movie. Luckily, their co-founder John Lasseter had previously been an employee of Disney and worked on The Fox and the Hound, so John was tasked with writing Pixar's first film. He spent nearly 2 years working on the first version of Toy Story that depicted Woody as a cynical jerk.
Who said your job was to think, Spring Wiener?
Why, I just thought that
use this vast reserve of brain power to consider this for a moment. If it wasn't for me, Andy wouldn't pay any attention to you at all. In fact, my sketchy friend, you would have been hauled away to Goodwill a long time ago, so shut your mouth and get them off the bed.
When Pixar pitched this, Disney executives hated it. They thought the characters were mean-spirited and would send the wrong message to children, so they shut down production of the film. John was embarrassed and begged for another chance. Disney gave him 2 weeks to develop another version. The second iteration of the film depicted a perspective of toys who desperately want to be played with because they love and care about their owners deeply. Disney greenlit the film, and luckily it paid off. In 1995, Toy Story released and earned $373 million worldwide, becoming the second highest grossing film of 1995, the first ever full-length computer-generated film, and a classic that shaped the childhoods of millions. Pixar and Disney followed that up with A Bug's Life and Toy Story 2, adding to the catalog of amazing films. But it wasn't just these animated films that made Disney so iconic during the Renaissance. You also had The Mighty Ducks, Cool Runnings, Angels in the Outfield, The Jungle Book, Hocus Pocus, The Parent Trap, Heavyweights. Let me know some of your favorites. It's also important to understand that during the 90s, Disney also owned 2 major production studios, Touchstone and Hollywood Pictures. Touchstone produced Armageddon, Pretty Woman, Dead Poets Society, Sister Act, while Hollywood Pictures produced Tombstone, The Sixth Sense, and a bunch of others I don't personally recognize. In short, Disney absolutely dominated the 90s. They created iconic moments of magic that taught us valuable life lessons. They taught us right and wrong. Never pretend to be something you are not. Listen to your parents. Love and cherish your family. Lessons that would make us well-rounded human beings. However, they did get their fair share of criticism back then as well. The Hunchback of Notre Dame explores themes such as lust, obsession, and religious hypocrisy, which are more mature and intense than typical Disney fare. The character of Esmeralda was critiqued for her sexualized design, objectifying and misrepresenting her character. However, the 1989 VHS cover of The Little Mermaid was banned and later changed when people noticed it contained phallic imagery. But these days, many people think we should have been harsher on Disney films in the 90s, which has caused people to go back in the past and become critical of what they thought were great films. And before we absolutely dismantle your favorite childhood films, let me tell you about today's sponsor. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest.
Shout out to your sponsor, bro, Patrick CC. It's some gambling shit. Use that code or something. All right, next.
To take advantage and win some money. Aladdin as a whole was criticized for perpetuating negative stereotypes and presenting a distorted and one-dimensional view of the Arab world. They also thought that the casting of white actor Robin Williams to voice the genie, who is a mystical being living in a lamp, was considered whitewashing since the character had cultural connotations associated with the Middle East. Disney also went back and changed controversial lyrics in the song Arabian Nights. A joke from the bloopers reel in Toy Story 2 raised so much controversy in 2019 that Disney decided to remove it.
You know, I'm sure I could get you a part in Toy Story 3. I'm sorry, are we back? Oh, all right, girls. Lovely talking with you.
What the fuck? My shit just crashed. No, my shit ain't crashed. Why is my shit buffering? Never. Stop. Chill, bro, chill. We was just enjoying the video, chill.
During the sexual misconduct allegations against Disney.
Wow, all right. That scene and this lining up is a crazy timing, I'm not gonna lie.
Executives,
bro, stop lagging,
didn't age well. Pocahontas was accused of appropriating and commodifying Native American culture for profit, without showing proper respect or understanding of the cultures and traditions they were depicting, while also being too historically inaccurate. They also depicted a relationship
that look trash right now. Okay, it's back. No, it's not. It lied. Pump fake fail. Bro, can we just can we have a day where I don't lag? Like we getting over this. This is like a growing pain. Like, come on. There's some 2022 shit. Shit, it might be some 2023 shit. I can't lie. I've been lagging all this year. But bro, let's leave that this year. I understand it's still 2023, but let's leave that this year. One day, I hope so. Because what the fuck is this? Bro, my bitrate is doing... Hold on. I'm about to start streaming at fucking 160p. Y'all gonna even see nothing but pixels. It's gonna look like a fucking old Pokemon game. Oh my god. There you go. Bitrate lowered. Can y'all chill down, please? Wait, did I lower it? That shit orange instead of red, so that's somewhat decent. Look at that dumbass noise. Alright.
Falsely represented how natives felt about European settlers. Their song Savages is a war song in the film with some questionable lyrics. Their whole disgusting race is like a curse. Their skin's a hellish red. They're only good when dead. They're different from us, which means they must be evil.
I don't think I've ever sat and watched Pocahontas front to back, but if this was in a shit, they were wilding.
People were angry that they made such an abhorrent song into a catchy tune. However, defenders simply say that this is an accurate way to depict how horrifying and absurd their mindset was. Disney did go back and change some of the lyrics, from their whole disgusting race is like a curse to here's what you get when the races are diverse. However, there is no argument that the Renaissance era was Disney's peak, and the only reason they survived throughout the 2000s was because of their ability to buy the companies that were actually making great art. The 2000s is often described as Disney's experimental era, because the company started...
What the fuck? Hold on. Some of these movies, I'm like, what?
Hell the 2000s is
Fire.
Often described as Disney's...
What the fuck? I've never seen this before.
Experimental era.
Okay, this is a classic.
Because the company...
What the hell is this, bruh? I didn't know... What is this?
Started trying different ventures to keep their billions flowing in. The Disney Channel was their venture into daytime television and was the last original creation before they kind of gave up. Even Stevens and Lizzie McGuire were their first big successes in the live-action sector, which led to huge hits like That's So Raven, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, Hannah Montana, and Wizards of Waverly Place. These shows rooted our problems as tweens into reality. They depicted fun adventures while also tackling real problems like how to talk to your first crush, how to combat bullies, going through puberty, among other growing pains. Every single one of their successful TV shows were turned into movies, which speaks to their experimental nature, but they also produced original TV movies like Smart House, Cadet Kelly, the Halloween Town series, and of course, High School Musical. For the people that didn't grow up during this era, it's hard to describe how much the Disney Channel impacted children. Kids in the 50s through the 70s pretty much only watched cartoons on Saturday mornings. 80s and 90s kids watched before school and after school, but had less variety and autonomy over what they were watching. Early 2000s kids grew up with multiple TVs in the house. If parents wanted to control the television, they likely had a playroom TV or bedroom TV where they could watch whatever they want. They had DVRs, playback software, endless amounts of reruns, and even multiple channels that aired the same shows. Disney Channel shows were averaging anywhere from 4 to 10 million viewers on the premieres alone. Hannah Montana and the Cheetah Girls became international superstars, doing stadium tours with 10,000 plus people singing songs that were based on a Disney Channel TV show. And while their live-action TV thrived, their animated TV shows were much weaker than competitors Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network. But they still had some solid new additions with The Proud Family, Kim Possible, and Phineas and Ferb. All of those also got their own TV movie.
It's crazy because, like, I remember a period in time when, like, Phineas First still was, like, just starting, and it wasn't considered no damn classic. Like in comparison to the other ones, I'm like, oh, yeah, no, those gonna be classics, or these classic. Then Phineas and Ferb came, and I was like, it's cool. But I guess it did age well, I guess. I don't think I watched anything. Did they still make that shit? I don't think they make that shit. I think I watched most of the episodes. I'm gonna say that, but shit, bro.
But if it wasn't for Pixar, Disney's animated film presence would have tanked. They started the 2000s with The Emperor's New Groove, which fans loved, but it failed to meet the financial success of the Renaissance
This shit used to come on like 11 a.m. Like, nigga, I'm 7 years old. I'm not
From
up,
here,
nigga. I'm
hand-drawn
asleep.
animation was being considered obsolete, and Disney had not been working on computer-generated animation. To make things worse, there was new competition on the horizon: DreamWorks. Disney created a competitor to Pixar and DreamWorks called Secret Lab, but the films they produced failed to meet expectations. Dinosaur was their 2000 film.
See, it makes sense. So this movie failed to, like, bro, oh my god, this dinosaur's face is pissing me off. Nigga look fried as a bitch, and he need Vaseline, bro. What's going on?
That featured CGI prehistoric creatures. The movie was just alright. Not impressive enough for their CGI debut. It secured over $300 million in the box office, but they expected more. Secret Lab closed down after one failure. Pixar exploded again with Monsters, Inc., and DreamWorks came out of the gates hot with Chicken Run and Shrek. Shrek 2 secured $900 million in the box office. Disney was trembling. The Lilo and Stitch movie was the last original bona fide hit Disney had since the 90s, grossing $273 million, but it still didn't even come close to Pixar. Finding Nemo grossed nearly $1 billion worldwide, The Incredibles $600 million, Monsters, Inc. $500 million. But it wasn't even just the money. Disney's animation was outdated, and their storylines were almost exactly the same from 1989 now into the 2000s. They knew they could not compete with the creativity of Pixar or DreamWorks, so CEO Bob Iger decided to acquire Pixar in 2006 for $7.4 billion. Every movie after 2006 by Pixar could technically be considered a Disney movie, but John Lasseter at Pixar was not going to let them ruin his films. He demanded that Disney executives have little power over the creative direction of Pixar films, and since Disney needed Pixar, they obliged, and saw even more success. Cars, Ratatouille, WALL-E, Up. Pixar saved Disney,
don't be missing for
but
real.
Only for a little bit. To make matters worse for Disney, they were struggling to find big success in live-action films. There was really only two films that carried this era: Pirates of the Caribbean, which became a multi-billion-dollar
Caribbean? Niggas don't say Caribbean. Pirates of the Caribbean. That don't even sound right. Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah. But I be saying Caribbean islands, so whatever.
Series over the next 2 decades, and Chronicles of Narnia, which also grossed over $1 billion worldwide. Even though that was technically a spin-off from a book series written in the 50s. Other than that, we got some cult classics like The Princess Diaries, Freaky Friday, Bridge to Terabithia, and Remember the Titans. However, as we went into the 2010s, Disney Channel ratings started to dwindle. The only show still gaining viewership was Wizards of Waverly Place. By that point, kids like me were in high school and moving on from Disney. It seemed like every sector of their business was facing imminent disaster as we passed 2010. Their TV cartoons weren't as good as Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network, their animated films weren't as good as Pixar and DreamWorks, their live-action TV shows were losing steam, and honestly, they never really had booming success with live-action films aside from a few. So instead of buckling down, figuring out where they are going wrong, figuring out how to create wonderful, imaginative universes like they did in the 90s and for nearly 100 years before, they took the easy way out and just bought out companies who were actually making great art. Disney actually has a long history of buying companies that are competing with them, or buying into industries they want to take part in. Like in 1993, they purchased the Mighty Ducks hockey team and the California Angels baseball team. Why? Because they wanted to make a hockey movie and a baseball movie, and they weren't just going to waste an opportunity to create a money-making professional sports empire. Well, they failed, but the movies were pretty good. Then in 1996, they purchased ESPN as a whole when they acquired ABC Inc. And to save you a bunch of time, this is every single company that Disney owns today.
Oh
Real
my
estate
God.
companies, theme parks, merchandising, Vice, National Geographic, Hulu, and even GoPro. Disney has their white gloves in just about every business imaginable. They were once a company that took pride in creating cinematic masterpieces to last decades. With the help of Bob Iger, they became focused on one thing and one thing only: profit. And in the start of the 2010s, they did pretty dang good after they purchased Marvel Entertainment for $4.4 billion. Many people thought Disney acquiring Marvel would remove some of the edge these Marvel characters had. Just like John Lasseter made sure Disney didn't ruin Pixar, Marvel's president Kevin Feige was going to continue to control the creative direction for future films. Kevin produced most of the iconic Marvel movies in the early 2000s. Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3, Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, Fantastic Four. Marvel was on fire, and Disney's newfound ownership would surprisingly make things better in the beginning. Feige had a vision for the Marvel Cinematic Universe that no one had attempted before on the big screen. His plan was to make an interconnected universe of films all building to one finale. Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America. They came out of the gates hot. The Avengers securing $1.5 billion worldwide, which made it the third highest grossing film of all time in 2012. Iron Man 3, Thor the Dark World, The Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Ant-Man. Marvel was releasing 2 huge feature films per year, and each time it was a cultural event. All the way up through 2019, they were breaking records left and right. Deadpool, Thor Ragnarok, Deadpool 2, Venom, all were massive. Then Black Panther, becoming the highest grossing film directed by a black filmmaker, grossing over $1.3 billion. The film celebrated black culture in a groundbreaking way, offering a vision of Africa through the fictional nation of Wakanda that was rich, advanced, and uncolonized. The film showcased a specific, beautiful black aesthetic, from Afrocentric natural hair to carefully designed costumes drawing from various African references. This attention to detail reflected the diversity of black culture and identity. But the 2 movies that wrapped up Marvel's decade-long dominance are Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame.
Man, it bring me back when I seen this movie. Bro, that ending, I was like, bro, what the fuck? That is crazy, bro.
$2 billion at the box office, making it the highest grossing
20 million years ago,
of all time, only to be beaten by Endgame the next year, $2.7 billion worldwide. Many people believe these 2 movies are in the top 10 best superhero films of all time, and they also believe them to be the end of Marvel's dominance. After all, it was Kevin Feige's vision to build all these stories throughout the years until they came together in Endgame. Pixar continued to steamroll ahead in the 2010s. Toy Story 3 became the highest grossing animated film of all time. Brave, which was a news story that became a massive hit, earning $500 million in the box office. Monsters University grossed over $700 million. Then Inside Out was even bigger at $850 million. Finding Dory was another $1 billion box office success. If you look at Pixar's catalog from 1995 to 2017, they had 1 flop, one of the most impressive runs in history. Disney was in total domination at the start of the 2010s. Yeah, they were being carried by their acquisitions, but they made a short comeback from their own animation studio. Wreck-It Ralph in 2012 was a very Pixar-inspired film about the lives of video game characters inside the arcade machines. Earning a solid $500 million at the box office got the momentum building for what was about to come. Frozen, the highest grossing animated film of all time, beating out Toy Story 3, $1.28 billion.
There we go.
But
now
the success of Frozen was more than just money. Disney was able to recreate the magic and cultural dominance they had in the 90s. An original princess movie with addicting musical performances, valuable life lessons for kids like learning to be brave, take risks, communicate your conflicts, and always love your friends and family. It just felt right to see my little sister have an iconic Disney film to grow up with. Then they
see, this is crazy because this nigga had a complete 180 experience for me. My little sister was spamming that bitch throughout the day on like 50 volume, bruh. I'm like, turn this dumb ass, let it go bullshit off. I'm hearing this shit day in, day out. Keep in mind, she little as fuck. She not in school, bruh. So she in the house watching that dumbass movie back to back to back, spamming that bitch. Like, I'm talking like, I leave the house, come back home, watching that motherfucker, watching it, eating dinner, watching it, about to go to sleep, watching it, waking up to her watching. Like, bro, I get it, damn. Shout out Olaf, but fuck. New movie, please. Fuck that movie, bro.
Followed up with Big Hero 6 and Moana, both
trash.
solid additions to the new Pixar-inspired Disney catalog. They also took a big step progressively. In 2014, on an episode of Good Luck Charlie, Disney displayed a same-sex couple for the first time.
Taylor has 2 moms.
Something that would become a key part of all of their films years later. Their live-action films Cinderella and The Jungle Book were also huge hits. Beauty and the Beast earned over $1 billion. By the mid-2010s, everything was booming again. Disney just could not miss.
Who the fuck made this edit? That is crazy as fuck. Bro, I can't stand this Frozen shit. Like, this shit actually pisses me off. I don't think there's not another Disney film that really pisses me off as much as Frozen. I don't think there is. That dinosaur movie don't count. That shit just looks like it's pissing me off. This shit, I actually watched this bitch voluntarily and it pissed me off. That's different.
In 2012, they purchased Lucasfilm, the creators of Star Wars, for $4 billion. Although this acquisition financially would be fruitful for Disney, there are a lot of mixed opinions regarding the execution of these films. Their first release with Lucasfilm was in 2015, Star Wars The Force Awakens, which as it sits is the 11th highest grossing film of all time adjusted for inflation, earning $2 billion.
It was okay,
a huge success, but it didn't actually continue the Star Wars story that was developed for the past 40 years. It's like they changed everything the fans knew and loved about their characters and wrote a new story. Visually, it was stunning, and people who were new to the franchise adored it, but longtime fans were disappointed, hoping the second film would be better. Rogue One in 2016 took a bit of a risk casting lesser known, or at the time not A-list actors, Felicity Jones and Diego Luna. Disney executives were supposedly not fully satisfied with the first cut, and will bring in writer and director Tony Gilroy to help with the movie. With his help streamlining it all, reconceptualizing the story, reshooting scenes and editing, with the iconic Darth Vader fight scene being added right at the end of filming, the movie would be a huge hit. It was the last critically acclaimed and beloved Star Wars movie, despite having a $1 billion decrease in revenue from the previous one. Star Wars is a multi-generational classic that is always going to bring in revenue due to it being the most popular film franchise of all time. Using revenue alone is not an accurate representation of how the community felt about these films, and there are people who dedicate their entire lives diving into the insane complexity that is...
I just know it stink, but I don't know. Are comic conventions... Nah. Why the fuck was I about to ask if comic conventions stink? What do you think? Never mind.
This cinematic universe that George Lucas created, so to sit here and describe where every film went wrong would take forever. But there is some crucial information to understand why Disney tainted the Star Wars legacy. Disney CEO Bob Iger wrote in his 2019 memoir that George Lucas wrote outlines for a Star Wars trilogy. Bob said, "We needed to buy them, though we made it clear in the purchase agreement that we would not be contractually obligated to adhere to the plot lines he had laid out. Instead, Disney gave creative control to director J.J. Abrams, screenwriter Michael Arndt, and Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy. From the very beginning, George Lucas saw them ruining his vision."
I can't hate the other two because I don't know how responsible, but that nigga J.J. Abrams, they got his name in big ass font on the movie. So if I catch that nigga, I'm grabbing him by his fucking Hanes draws. He probably a millionaire. He probably don't wear Hanes. Well, he might. He not no he don't look like he wearing Balenciaga. Either way, I'm grabbing them motherfuckers, twisting them bitches, and just swinging that nigga into the rip.
Vision for the trilogy. He felt betrayed. Disney loved his ideas and bought him out only to change everything they loved. And instead of them coming up with their own cohesive story, they let multiple directors take the leads for different films. Rian Johnson for The Last Jedi and J.J. Abrams for The Rise of Skywalker. Critics say these films subvert our expectations, but that's just a fancy way of saying it's unpredictable. And just because it's unpredictable doesn't mean it's good. The film's decisions regarding character arcs, plot twists, and the identity of certain characters felt totally random and lacked continuity. Going against the man who created this franchise obviously pissed off longtime fans.
That nigga don't got no, he don't got no jaw. His chin connects
it felt like
neck.
Disney took advantage of George Lucas and the massive Star Wars community. Financially speaking, throughout the 2010s, Disney reigned supreme, with almost no dents in their armor. But the only way to go from here was down, starting with Pixar, the studio that saved them 20 years earlier. John Lasseter, Pixar and Walt Disney Animation Studios' chief creative officer, took a leave of absence in 2017 after revelations last year that he sexually harassed multiple employees during his tenure. At Pixar,
really, nigga?
Pixar, John was known for
Why do
grabbing,
all these niggas
kissing,
end up being
making
villains,
comments
bro? What the
about
fuck?
physical attributes. John responded with, "I've recently had a number of difficult conversations that have been very painful for me. It's never easy to face your missteps, but it's the only way to learn from them." Lasseter made himself the victim, hoping to gain sympathy of those who oppose this sudden Me Too movement. Disney didn't fire him until he finished the projects that he was working on. He stayed there for another year to finish Incredibles 2 and Toy Story 4. Both were massive commercial and critical successes. Although John was exposed for being a relentless creep, deserving of his termination, there is no doubt that he was the creative genius at Pixar. After he left, Pixar died. Onward was a box office flop and received controversy for this clip.
It's not easy being a new parent. My girlfriend's daughter got me pulling my hair out, okay?
The officer mentions her girlfriend's daughter, obviously stating that she is a lesbian. Most people didn't even notice this quick line. In fact, the LGBTQ community was pretty happy about it. However, this short scene got the film banned in multiple Middle Eastern countries.
I was
From
trying to figure out
Soul was a
wrong,
flop.
what was
Luca
wrong.
was a flop. Turning Red managed to barely make a profit, but when you consider marketing expenses, it's still a flop. Pixar was spending $100 to $200 million per film to make these detailed, beautiful universes, but lacked any decent storytelling to
Elemental
keep
do
you
good, though?
engaged. Lightyear was the unforeseen spin-off of Toy Story's Buzz Lightyear. And in this one, Pixar took their inclusion to new heights when they displayed a same-sex couple kissing. Conservatives claimed Lightyear was an attempt by Disney to indoctrinate children and shape their beliefs. Social media saw a firestorm of different opinions online, and the movie failed in the box office. But not just because of controversy. It's because they depicted Buzz as more of a human than the toy we all know and love. It was voiced by not Tim Allen, and it's an origin story that nobody really needed in the first place. It's hard to say what exactly went wrong at Pixar in the past few years. It can't simply be Lasseter's exit because he was hired by Skydance Animations and their first movie Luck was a commercial and critical failure. Pixar has never had so many failures commercially and critically in their entire history. They are on life support and don't know how to save themselves. The next sector of Disney's business to go was their own animation studio. Instead of taking risks on new storylines,
I ain't gonna lie. What they should do, like, since that, he was on some sexual harassment shit, right? Ain't really much you could do from coming back. You can apologize. You could pay for, like, medical or any kind of therapeutic shit, but there ain't really much you could do. I say, if they want that nigga back, sit that nigga down, make him do 12 hot chip challenges. If the nigga survive, he can come back. I think that's fair enough. I'm not gonna say that's what, the victims, they could probably, adjust, but 12 hot chips, my nigga? Oh my God. 12? I'm just saying, bro. That's a little idea I threw out there.
they continue pushing what was working. Ralph Breaks the Internet was a solid sequel that was loved by fans and critics, also turned a decent profit. Frozen 2 was bound to be a smash hit and ended up being bigger than they probably imagined. $1.4 billion in the box office.
They made a second Frozen? I don't remember that. What the fuck? They made a second one? Oh, thank God my little sister was old, like way older, because holy fuck, she would have been spamming this bitch. Oh my God. Beautiful. Maybe that's why I didn't know. I just had to shut this shit out.
Second
PTSD.
highest grossing animated film of all time. Hopefully this was enough profit to handle all the loss they were about to take in the 2020s. Raya and the Last Dragon, flop. Encanto had an okay box office performance, but got more popular once it was added to the Disney Plus streaming service. Strange World was a massive box office failure and had yet another LGBTQ controversy. The main character, Ethan Clade, is an openly gay teenager whose crush is the male character, Diazo. This is the first Disney film with an openly gay lead character. Teachers in Florida were being investigated for showing this film to their students.
What?
Opposers think that Disney Animations is failing
Florida
because they choose not to write an interesting and meaningful storyline, but rather focus on pushing an agenda to children. However, the LGBTQ community feels like they are finally getting deserved representation in films. But Disney made their stance towards the LGBTQ community very clear in March of 2022, when Florida legislator passed HB 1557, otherwise known as the Don't Say Gay
Nigga, that sound like launch codes. What the fuck? HB 1557. What the fuck?
Bill. This bill prohibits instruction on sexual orientation or gender identity in grades kindergarten through 3rd grade. The bill is framed around the fundamental rights of parents to make decisions regarding the upbringing and control of their children. Since Disney World is located in Florida, they were pressured to take a stance. They issued a statement. Florida's HB 1557 should have never been passed and should never have been signed into law. Our goal as a company is for this law to be repealed by the legislature or struck down in the courts, and we remain committed to supporting the national and state organizations working to achieve that. Disney did not attempt to block this law while it was in process, and as far as we know, have not made any progress towards getting it changed. Walt Disney Studios was able to offset some of the losses from their 2 animation studios failing with live-action remakes of classics. From 2015, Disney has been on a remake tirade. Cinderella, The Jungle Book, Alice Through the Looking Glass, Beauty and the Beast, Dumbo, Aladdin, Lady and the Tramp. All of these were very safe and solid box office successes, but the biggest was none other than The Lion King, earning $1.6 billion, making it the highest-grossing animated film of all time. However, these safe remakes would come to a screeching halt. Mulan, Cruella, Pinocchio, Peter Pan all failed to make substantial revenue. Now, this could be due to the pandemic shutting down theaters and people being scared to go out in public, but it's more likely that Disney fans are just exhausted from the oversaturation of old stories, so they threw a curveball at a classic. The Little Mermaid 2023 was a live-action remake that casted Halle Bailey as Ariel. This made headlines because the original 1989 animation depicted Ariel as a white woman, whereas Halle is African American. Disney has been accused of whitewashing their characters for years, but we don't often see them totally change the race of one of their main characters. Critics accuse Disney of blatantly pandering, trying to change something that was a non-issue in the first place. However, defenders pointed out that mermaids don't have a race because they are not real, and Disney has had very few black lead characters over the years. Some people in the middle thought that the lead just didn't look like Ariel, specifically because her hair is orange and not red. Normally, these controversies lead to failure, but fans and critics seem to like this movie, and it made a nice profit. However, their upcoming Snow White remake has easily received the most controversy out of them all, and it hasn't even come out yet.
That's what I'm saying. Niggas hate her. What did she do? What did she do to make niggas that angry? Like, I be seeing threads, like, just randomly. I'll be scrolling through Twitter just on some random shit. She used to pop up. I'm like, oh, okay. And then there'll be some hating ass nigga. I'm like, what the fuck did she do? Let's see.
With the casting of Rachel Zegler, a Colombian American set to play the role of Snow White. This specific princess is known for having pale white skin and dark hair, but Rachel's skin color is not why people are angry. It's her constant reminders that she hates the original story.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story. With a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
The cartoon was made 85 years ago, and therefore it's extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again.
Even people who are extremely for Disney reshaping and modifying their classics to fit a modern...
That's not a... See, it's not a wild take because it's pretty true. Actually, I don't remember how Snow White went. I'm not gonna lie. I just know she had an Airbnb with a bunch of short niggas. That's all I remember. And then a motherfucker tried to poison her shit. That's all I remember. Snow White had an Airbnb with 7 short niggas, right? And some old bitch pulled up with an apple that was poisoned. She ate that bitch, and I think she came back to life off of a kiss or some shit. I'm pretty sure that's how that went. That's like the Spark Notes. But look, it's not a crazy take though, because it probably was wild. I don't remember. But to play unless they change the role in some way, why play that role? That's all I gotta say. I mean, shit. I mean, if you put a bag, I mean, that could be a good, nigga, I'm trying to get paid. Respect. But I'm just saying, like, to each his own.
Society think Rachel is annoying, entitled, and disrespectful. And on top of that, she doesn't think she's being paid enough.
If I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
She's like everything people hate about this generation distilled into a single person. There have been rumors that Disney plans on axing this film due to the controversy. If that becomes true, it would forever change the way they cast their lead characters. If they don't axe the film, it sends the message to future leads that you can disrespect the legacy of Disney, insert your unwanted opinions, all while elevating your fame and getting paid millions of dollars. Marvel has not been able to escape this downfall either. Aside from Spider-Man and Black Panther, who were certified billion-dollar hits, their rollout of new films have been catastrophic. The New Mutants, The Kingsman, Morbius,
The Kingsman didn't go good.
Which was their first.
Morbius is trash as fuck. Take that shit back. Eternals, it was boring. It wasn't even trash, it was just boring.
Openly gay superhero, all bombed at the box office. This is especially bad when you consider these movies have $200 million budgets. Their new TV series She-Hulk, WandaVision, Miss Marvel, and Secret Invasion are not drawing much excitement from fans.
The only one that I really fought with out of those was WandaVision. I didn't watch this one though. She-Hulk was kind of like, it was cool. It was okay. Nah, that shit was trash. I'm not gonna lie. I can't even say here. And Miss Marvel was very boring.
Either. And rumors are circulating that some of these TV episodes are costing upwards of $25 million to make. In an effort to cut costs, they aren't shrinking budgets and writing better stories, they're just laying off hardworking people. Bob Iger announced his plan to reduce costs by $5.5 billion, which included reducing the workforce by 7,000 employees. One of these employees was Marvel executive Ike Perlmutter, who was the man who sold Marvel to Disney 15 years ago. Disney has bought extremely valuable IP from culturally significant studios, rinsed every dollar they could out of them, and reshaped the narratives to tell a more modern and socially acceptable story. But they are now in panic mode. It's not working anymore. They have lost $900 million in their last 8 releases, and just a week ago their stock price hit a 9-year low when it fell below $84 in 2023. So if going woke is clearly pissing off fans and dragging their financials into the mud, why are they doing it? Is it because they genuinely care about inclusion and making people of all kinds feel comfortable and happy? Well, when you learn about the Corporate Equality Index, you might think differently as to why companies are all of a sudden being so forward with their political ideologies. For the 16th year in a row, Disney received a score of 100 on the Human Rights Campaign Foundation's Corporate Equality Index. The CEI score is administered by the Human Rights Campaign, the largest LGBTQ political lobbying organization in the US. This score is given to companies that meet certain criteria such as workforce protections, inclusive benefits, supporting an inclusive culture, and the big one being corporate social responsibility. CSR is the one we will notice the most because of the rules that must be followed to earn a full score in this area. Marketing or advertising in LGBTQ consumers, advertising with LGBTQ+ content, advertising in LGBTQ media or sponsoring LGBTQ organizations and events, and demonstrated public support for LGBTQ+ equality under the law through local, state, and federal legislation or initiatives. Companies are rewarded with essentially a social credit score based on how inclusive they are. Investors often consider a company's CEI score as an indicator of potential future backlash over human rights violations or other controversies. A high CEI score can reassure investors that the company is a relatively safe bet. If you do not comply with the HRC's guidelines and receive a low CEI score, then investment firms that control trillions of dollars, such as BlackRock, will actively avoid investing in your company. This situation becomes particularly concerning when viewed through the lens of potential blackmail. If a company fails to meet HRC's criteria, the HRC can exert pressure on investors. These investors, in turn, can influence the company's board, creating a chain of external pressures. If they learn that a company is not complying with the HRC's LGBTQ criteria, they have the power to contact advertising agencies and encourage them to no longer do business with these companies. This could result in a significant loss of income for a non-compliant company. Adding another layer of complexity, companies that do adhere to the CEI criteria may also be penalized if they engage in business with companies that do not. In some cases, even the companies that are making an effort to meet the CEI standards could see their scores negatively affected. Very powerful billionaires are very much against conservative values. Strong family bonds, frugality, and modesty contradict the consumerist mindset. By influencing a younger generation to distance themselves from these traditional values, these cutthroat businessmen aim to shape a future consumer base that generates more profits than ever before. However, not every company is successful in trying to achieve a higher score. For instance, companies like Bud Light have faced controversies that led to significant financial losses. The biggest problem with this score is that you'll never know the difference between an actually progressive, inclusive company and one that's just trying to get a higher score to look good for investors. You have to ask yourself, is Disney trying to make your life easier, safer, and happier? Or are they just trying to prevent investors from getting scared and pulling out? The truth is, Disney has always faced backlash, and they always will. You can type in literally any Disney film, the word controversy after it, and you will find an article of someone pinpointing a small detail accusing them of being racist, whitewashing, too gay, not gay enough. There will always be someone angry. After dragging 3 iconic studios into the dirt and squeezing out every last penny they can, it seems like the one thing they haven't tried in 2 decades is use their endless amount of dollars and connections to build a super team and write a good story.
All right, well, I mean, shit. It is what it is, Disney. You know, go take that shit on the chin, bro.